Back in 1992, we were blessed with the arrival of young Dan, my first son. I'd already got a little girl, Zoe. Around age 8 months was when we got that day when we got the diagnosis, and the paediatrician was fantastic. He sat on our settee and told us the words Duchenne muscular dystrophy, something that although I'd done science A-levels, I'd never actually come across and was very unaware of what it might be or what it might entail going forward. Sadly, my husband, Dan's dad, didn't know how to cope with this at all and didn't really understand, and it was very much me that ended up being plunged into a world of appointments and trying to work out our way through, really. We were in council housing, so we knew that we'd have to think about long-term effects of that. If I go back to that beginning and wanted to do anything different, I think it would be just to take a step back. There weren't so many groups around of support. I didn't come across DFSG, for instance, till Dan was about 6 or 7. MD UK, or MDC as it was around, but I wasn't interested. I didn't want to know what the future held. And I think a lot of you guys probably go through that as well. You're in your own little bubble and all you can focus on is my son's not perfect and how on earth are we going to get through this? And it was just a really hard, dark time. But although life has never been easy, and I don't think life ever is easy for anyone having a son with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, there were so many positives going forward, and my attitude did change and I saw the positives. But I also was very fortunate to get involved with support groups like DFSG and Muscular Dystrophy Campaign, and I turned my grief, I think, into a positive, in that I was then thinking, well, I'm not the only one going through this, so I want to turn what's happened to Dan into a way for me to work forward and help support other families in the same situation. We went through all the various stages that you do, and Dan went through puberty. He hit a bad stage when he was coming out of his manual wheelchair, needing an electric wheelchair, where we had temper tantrums. And people just blamed his disability, and it was pure frustration that he couldn't keep up with his peers. And as soon as we got him changed into an electric wheelchair and he got his independence back again, then he was down again, and he settled down. He just found his own way and did things at his own level. His personality, I think, overcame a lot of stuff. He was always jolly, he was always laughing, nothing was too much effort. And even when he was poorly, it would be his personality. And the nurses would just flock to be with him because he was the most awful flirt, typical ladies man, and I think this is what got him through so many of the difficult situations. Supporting him was interesting, but for me, I think that's become my life, and helping others to get through that. And I think it's made me who I am today. It's made me stronger. I feel as though I'm a strong person, and my work has been through Dan to help others go through it and help point them in the right direction. For newly diagnosed families from 2020 going forward, if I could look back and do what I wanted to do all over again, and give some help and advice, I would say take stock. Take time for yourselves, think about what Duchenne muscular dystrophy is, find out as much information you feel able to take with, because it is an overwhelming thing at first, and it can take over everything. So take that time, talk to the people that are close to you that will help and support you, reach out to people that might help. But my overriding thing, and I'd say this a lot to people now, is there is so much hope out there now. When Dan was diagnosed back in 1992, there were no steroids at that time, so no therapies, and therefore all we had was this black and white: he's going to get worse and he will die in his mid-teens. Nowadays, boys are achieving, they go to university, their life expectancy is much more extended, and so much research going on. So be positive, try and keep positive. I know that's a really difficult thing to do, but look to the future. Take your child as an individual. They might not be a premier footballer, but they will find their way. Try and keep as positive as you can, but also find time for yourself. You need that time to shut off. And find yourself. Don't lose yourself and become absorbed in just being your son's mum and carer, because that can overtake you. I always found time to do some music or something creative that was just for me, but I could also be Dan's carer, and I think that makes you much more effective as a person. Difficult as it is, and I've always thought of it as a grief process and a journey, that you're grieving for that person you thought you were going to have, but that life has changed direction and you're actually you know, not going to one destination, you're going somewhere else, but you will get there with help and support and keeping positive. Back at diagnosis, on that awful day, we thought the future was bleak. It would be all hospital appointments and we would have no life and there would be no pleasure or fun. But you know what? Looking back, we have had so many great times. We've been to Vegas, we've met the Chelsea football team, we've done amazing things that we probably wouldn't have done had we been a normal, you know, nuclear 2.4 children family. So for all its negatives, there are lots of positives, and take every opportunity that gets offered to you. Yes, there are dark times and yes, there are difficult times, but there are so many positives that you can enjoy along the way.